Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning, everybody.
Is it time to do the morning show?
It's time to do the morning show. It's Monday.
Wait, Monday.
Yeah.
It's a new week, folks. We're in December. It's time to start thinking about how we want to close out 2022.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for many of you to decide what you're going to get me for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, that's
Michelle
right.
can probably offer you some suggestions.
Yeah.
Right.
He loves maple donuts.
Yeah, that's always a safe bet.
Yeah, anyone can do maple donuts, and he's going to
Right.
be like super happy about that. So good weekend.
Mhm.
It's remember we talked Friday. Now you have three more weekends.
Shopping weekends?
Shopping weekends.
Okay.
So,
it.
yeah.
Hint received.
Hint received. Well, I mean, yeah, we're not really huge on
No,
giving
we
each other
don't
big
do
gifts
that in
and
a big
all of
way.
that kind of stuff. It's more about experiences and family time
Yeah.
and all of that. So we'll be heading out of here in about a week and a couple of days, give or take, and heading to Salt Lake and spend some time with some family out there. Had a chance to go and see a beautiful lighting of Christmas stuff too, and enjoying the festivities here in Guyman,
Right.
Oklahoma. So
if you're out there, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, if you're out there listening, please jump in and say hello. Let us know what state you're listening from. Let us know your morning temperature where you are. We'd like to know that. And we're probably 42. It's warmed up a bit. We had some low temperatures. Good morning, Tyler Simmons in West Texas.
It's all over the heck here. I think that one of the days it was almost 70 and then it's back down to 40. Okay. Weather.
Yeah.
So we had a really great planning meeting yesterday too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do. We work a lot, which is good though, because we've got a lot of really cool stuff that we're getting prepared for 2023.
Yeah.
And so who's actually up early enough to watch y'all live?
A Facebook user.
It's just a Facebook user.
Good morning, Facebook
user.
Yeah.
Thank you
Glad
for
you're
being up early. So yeah, a lot of planning stuff, and we kind of mapped out a few things that we're going to be doing this week for the morning show as well, and looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be fun. And so part of our planning.
Good morning,
hi, Brianna Cox. Yeah, I'm surprised you probably haven't gone to bed yet.
Yeah.
But we're taking yesterday as we were planning, one of the things that Jim was talking about was this whole idea about leads and are like where people are selling from. And so he put up a poll, and it's really has gotten a lot of answers.
Quite a few. Yeah, good. A large enough sampling to feel like because as I said in the comments, like when you put this stuff out there, you don't want to assume. We all think we probably know what other dealers are doing, but we don't want to assume. And I think for me, it was really, from a selfish standpoint, it was trying to determine, because we're heading into a webinar at the end of the month where we want to talk about this idea of how to convert more web leads into appointments.
Yeah.
Tommy's 21 degrees.
Balmy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just trying to understand, okay, so leading into this, and this is going to be, we're reaching out and finalizing stuff with some experts on the subject, but we're really just trying to understand, how do we better convert leads? We know a lot of dealers out there are they're not having trouble getting connected with consumers and getting web leads, right? Whether it's coming through a Facebook chat or whether it's coming through a web form on their website, and get leads, but they're not getting very many of those people to the building. And so this is really the focus of our webinar at the end of the month.
Yeah. And Frederick Subprime Hero Leonard's.
Morning, Fred.
We're looking forward to having you on, and maybe we can chat about this.
Let's figure that
suggested.
out.
They'll be on in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
Just those guys have so much energy on
Oh
their
my
show.
goodness.
And Fred, let me just make sure you know this is as much energy as you're going to like. This is my excited face, is what I always tell
excited. This
people.
is happy.
So
This is
just so you
irritated.
recognize it when it
It's
happens, this is my
it's
excited
a little,
face.
it's a little
Yeah.
bit different on this end. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, you know, well, those of you, let's talk about what the survey was, what kind of response that we got on the survey. And so, Jim,
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, we threw it out there in the two Buy Here Pay Here specific
Pull it
Facebook
up.
groups. I've also put it out there in the success group, Real Success in the Car Biz, I should say. And I hadn't seen any responses over there yet. So it
Yeah,
has a
yeah.
little bit to do
Not
with
sure
how
why.
much it gets shown based on some algorithms, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But in the success group, let's just read the poll. Let me read the question the way it was phrased for those of you who didn't see it.
I'm looking it up. You're
Are you?
looking it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's okay. So I got it
You
right
got it?
here. Can I
Okay.
read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
In 2022 to date, this is not about what I would like to, but to date, what percentage of your Buy Here, Pay Here buyers took delivery at a location other than your dealership?
And then
And
see
comments for
You
clarification.
want to read
So,
those comments?
well, let me just say that
Yeah.
the opportunity or the choices were 0,
Mhm.
less than 2%, or just a very small few, 2 to 5%, or more than 5%. And so what Jim put in here was this one might seem obvious or unnecessary, but we all know better than to assume. Plus, we know of some dealers doing digital deliveries. By off-site, we mean the Buy Here Pay Here customer took delivery of the car they financed with you at their home, work, etc., someplace besides your dealership location.
So we know that happens. We know there are dealers out there having a substantial amount of success with that. Most of us in the car business have witnessed what Carvana is doing. We know that COVID, caused many of us to shift into a new sort of paradigm. And now, as we come off of COVID, we're trying to understand what is consumer behavior. What does this consumer really want? We're working on additional surveys out there on the consumer side to better understand what is it the consumer really wants. But so in the meantime, what I wanted to make sure that we were doing was that we're bringing information and education tips to people the way they're currently doing business. And what this poll basically confirmed is that of the 46 respondents in the success group, 45 of them said not one offsite delivery year to date 2022. So that's a pretty good sampling for me. And it tells me that while the world may be changing, the vast majority of at least the dealers in the success group are still doing business the traditional way, which is delivering the customer at the dealership. Now, I got to say, from my own experience dating back to the time I was a dealer, and this stuff will vary a little bit by state and maybe even by jurisdiction. Like you would have been prohibited back in the time that I was a dealer from delivering anywhere besides your dealership. That was part of what your license allowed, was that you're allowed to deliver at your location only. And so I think there could be some legal hurdles to think about here, but a lot of that stuff's probably been addressed through COVID. I don't know in a post-COVID world what we're allowed to do, but really the question is, I know the survey says what we're currently doing, regardless of what we're allowed to do.
So I was just doing some math.
Oh, good. Good for you.
Yeah,
It's pretty early
right?
to be doing math, isn't it?
He's the math guy. I actually do enjoy math. We had 80 people respond between the two that the two
Could be
that I
some
looked
overlap.
at, and 73 of the 80 said that it was not one.
And I think for me, that's enough. Like we always talk about in our training, we don't want to spend a lot of time training on the exception, right? We don't, you want to train based on the rule.
Yeah. So like one of the things that I, as we've talked to dealers all over the US, whether or not we're engaged or not engaged with them in a contract of consulting or coaching or implementation, is that it seems like for the most part, when someone arrives on the lot, that there's about a 50% close rate.
That may be true of some dealers. I don't think.
But it's once they get on the lot,
That number would be
There's
fairly high.
it'll be fairly high, like 30 to 50%,
30
something
to
like that.
50
Okay.
is certainly achievable.
And so there's a lot of, it's get them on the lot,
Mhm.
and then, we can, you do your magic and go towards closing the person that's on the lot. So to me, the disconnect, because we talk to dealers that it's like, how many leads do you get a month? Well, that depends on, how many people get on the lot and how many people get in the funnel without getting on the lot.
Yeah.
And there's a large percentage of leads that come and start through this. They've found you on some kind of an ad on social media or through your website, that
Some digital
start
form.
that way, but just don't end up. And the percentage of people that start that way are pretty low.
Yeah. And I think that's the
Mhm.
part that we're in the process with many of our clients. We're analyzing that. We're working with them to figure it
Mhm.
out. And we made the joke about being coaches rather than consultants. There's a joke out there about seagulls, which I'm not going to tell this morning, but I would just say that. So our
Yeah.
friends at Peachtree Planning shared with us a
and
little joke.
we absolutely don't believe this of other people in the space, but
No,
it's just kind of
it's
funny.
it's kind of
Yeah.
what the way
It's a funny
consultants
joke.
can be perceived.
Yes.
But in our case, it's the coaching thing and the follow through piece is really what the
Mhm.
difference is for us. Is we're trying to follow through. We're trying to help actually stay in the thing until the problem is solved. And so this is part of where we're working with a number of clients who are all wrestling with the same thing about how do I convert
Mhm.
these folks. And one of the things I said to a dealer yesterday, and he said, I don't know that I've heard it said any better. Like, the reality is that many of the people that we hire in our sales department who are physically at the building, meeting
Mhm.
customers at the building, many of them are great at that. They're great at
One-on-one,
face to face, the
face-to-face.
whole
Mhm.
dynamics of a in-person meeting and greeting and all that stuff. They're good at that. But those people aren't always the same people that are good at a chat dialogue,
About
virtual, digital
Yeah.
conversation. And so sometimes it's that. I mean, we're just in the process trying to figure out what it is.
Mhm.
I think until then, we're just saying we know that there are dealers out there doing digital delivery. Most of us aren't. The vast majority of us are not doing it that way.
I mean, I do hear interest.
Yeah.
There's a few people that we've talked to that are like, yeah, I'd like to learn more. I'd like to do more. But doing digital delivery, it's like that skill set
Mhm.
for between where they find you on social media or the website and where they land at the lot is pretty close to it's you're just focusing on that instead of the lot kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
So I can share with you kind of the outlook that I bring as a consultant,
Mhm.
former dealer. Before I was a buy here, pay here dealer, I was a salesperson and sales trainer, manager in a new car store. And before that, I was in retail business. So my collective experience with customers and sales process just tells me that I really want to utilize my talents. If I'm a salesperson, I
Mhm.
really want to utilize my talents in working with somebody and problem solving. That's a big part of sales in my mind, is listening and solving problems. You got to overcome objections, which means you got to listen, which means you got to,
Mhm.
it helps to be there. So my approach will be that two things. I want to make sure that any of our clients can meet the customer where they are and serve them. If the customer wants to buy digitally from the sofa,
Mhm.
great. Let's offer them that
Yeah.
solution. Let's make that available to them. But I would first be just inviting them in, because if we're 45 out of 46 say they don't take delivery anywhere but the dealership, which tells me the customers ultimately got to come to the dealership.
Mhm.
Well, I'd also like to have the data that says, and some of you can chime in, dealers that are listening, tell me, what percentage of the customers buy the first car that they inquire about online? If they just made an inquiry, they picked a car,
Yeah.
submitted an application, said, I'm interested in this car. What
I think
percent?
you did do a survey about that a while back.
It was a different language, I
Something
think.
like that. And it seems that just from people we've talked to is um, more often than not, they do not end up with the car that they originally
Yeah.
showed interest in through your social or website.
Mhm.
More often not, it took them getting on the lot to see the other stuff and do it but it's interesting though to me that there's that, and then how many people actually bought the car they test drove.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if we go back 20 years, I used to do surveys of managers about
Mhm.
what percentage of customers, now this is in-person contact, right? This
Mhm.
is person of the people who come to the lot. what percentage of people buy the one and only car that they test drove. So I
Mhm.
remember those surveys from 20 years ago, and the
Okay.
vast majority, I mean, it was a high percentage. It was,
Mhm.
a pretty high percentage of
It
the
still
customers.
seems to be today. Well, at least from the people that we talk to, it seems to
To
be
me, that
a high
depends on the sales
percentage.
process. I think what sales process you use is going to dictate a lot of that, because
Okay.
a lot of dealers don't allow the customer to test drive until,
They've been
so of course the
through
customers, if you're kind of forcing the customer into a certain car, we've got you approved for this
true.
one, then they
True.
would be more likely to do that. If you're allowing the customer to choose, then that becomes a little more interesting in terms of what the data would tell us. But either way, 20 years ago on the lot, customer would buy the one and only car that they test drove in a reasonably high percentage of the cases. Now it's a different environment. And so what I'm really asking is, if, and some dealers chime in there and tell me, so Tyler's chiming in, any other dealers, kind of tell us what's your experience when a customer inquires online about a particular vehicle and then they ultimately buy from you. Wouldn't it be interesting to know what percentage of the customers bought the car that they first inquired about?
And so Tyler's saying it's about 25%.
I'm not
So,
surprised to hear that.
uh-huh.
And he's guesstimating based on a lot of real experience. So they do a good volume, and Tyler's in that chair a lot. So that's good information. So I would say that, it'd be interesting data to know why would that be important? Because
Yeah.
my point in that is, if I'm going to utilize my talents in problem solving and helping a customer get in the car that they need, then I know, like if I'm sitting at the salesperson's desk or sales manager desk, I know that the quickest way for me to help a customer solve their problem and get in a car is to have
Mhm.
them sitting across the desk from me. If I can get them in the building,
Absolutely.
sit with them, I can solve the problem much more quickly.
And someone chimed in, Facebook user. I have a client doing buy here, pay here delivery on 80% of their sales or better, crazy high volume. Now, it's likely talking about
Uh-huh.
red, white, and blue, or Bill Melton
There's
Senior.
not
Are
the only
there?
one. There are
Is not
others.
the other ones?
Yeah,
Because I know that there are some people that have been able to do that,
sure.
but it's a very small percentage of dealers that are out there that are
Right.
doing that.
And
Very
and
small.
and we're not saying it's wrong. That's
Uh-uh.
not at all. We're saying meet the customer where they are. If they
Yes.
want to do business either way, I'm simply saying that the skilled salesperson, and maybe it's simpler to think about this. Take this outside of buy here, pay here for a minute. If
Mhm.
Let's make it a real estate transaction, or you're buying a boat, or some other significant price item.
How many of you out there would buy a house never having stepped foot in it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's, either
Yeah.
way, it's like, I
Uh,
think the idea is,
I got it.
it's a little
Yeah.
like, at what point do you want a professional to help you? Like if I'm the consumer,
Mhm.
so I know one of the things I used to always say as a salesperson is, or, in training salespeople, is like, we know we have a good product. We know we need, when people are here, we know our inventory better
Mhm.
than they will. We should
Yeah.
know our inventory better than anybody. And that just means, if I have a customer sitting with me, I can help them navigate this process. I know my inventory better. I
Yeah.
know my process better. If I can get them to come sit with me, then my ability to help them goes up exponentially.
Yes.
Right. And also, if I get them there, then I also, one of the talents that I hope I bring is some genuine, when I meet with them face to face, they can see in my eyes, they can see in my body language, I'm genuine in my desire to help them. Let's work together to solve this
Mhm.
problem. And I bet we can solve it more quickly.
Mhm.
So when you bring this sort of attitude to the sales process, then I'm simply saying, and this is where I want dealers to sound off, because as we go toward this, by the way, just save the date right now of December 29th. We chose to do it in between Christmas and the
It's
1st. We're going to do
7:30 Eastern
in the evening. Yeah. So
PM.
we're going to do
So
it.
we're going to try to do it so that dealers can
Right.
make it
So save
at
the
the end of
date
the
and
day.
we'll
Yeah.
announce details. We're finalizing some of the
Mhm.
experts that'll be on the panel, and some dealers, by the way. We also want some dealers on the panel. So anyway,
Mhm.
it'll just be a virtual dealer panel. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And it's going to be about that process between the inquiry
mhm,
from the website or the social media to getting them on the lot.
yeah.
I mean, how do we close that
So
gap?
let's approach this way. Let's say you're a dealer, you're listening, and you just hired me as your sales manager. And I come sit in the desk in your office and I say, as your sales manager, I want to invite customers into the building as early in the sales process as I can get them to come. Tell me why I shouldn't. Why should I not want to invite the customer in the building? I'm going to try to get the customer to come to the building just as early in the sales process as I possibly can. Why would I not do that? So I'm just
And
asking the question. Let's think about it, dealers.
Mhm.
What's the justification? What are we doing? Like, and maybe there's a perfectly good explanation based on your business model, your business strategy. Maybe you're trying to scale. And so you're saying, I don't want them at the building because I can deliver a lot more. I can scale. What's the answer? Like, because I'm going to say, if I'm a old school customer face to face, I want the customer here. I can close more sales. We can get them to the building. Then I'm going to make sure my process is designed in a way to give me a chance to invite people to the building, incentivize them to come to the building, give them reasons and explanations for why it's important for them to come on down the building.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I would just ask dealers to just sound off. Like, what's the rationale? And in the meantime, I can say, if I did do that as a sales manager, I'm also going to say, yes, I'm going to invite the customer in as early in the process as I can. I want them to come to the building, come to the building. When they won't, then I'm going to continue with the process online. I'm going to continue to meet them where they are. I'm going to obviously be prepared to get them a web app and do steps by text or
Yeah.
whatever we're going to do. But I'm saying until the customer tells me no, they would prefer to buy from their sofa, I'm going to continue to invite them in.
But one of the things that I've noticed is that there's a lot of sofa shoppers.
Yeah.
Or looky-loos.
Sure.
And, and that's when we've had some of our different opportunities for coaching and implementation, that there's a tendency, as like if someone can start a conversation and just kind of bat back and forth and let me see the photos of this and what about this and what's it and all of that online, it's funny because the salespeople and the dealers that we've talked to, but it's like, we get them so far down the thing. It's like, you got to get them here. And, there's a lot of that you probably can see a lot of the dealers out there. And at least the things that I've seen is that, you can waste a lot of time and, feel like you're getting really far down the track. You're wasting a lot of time just with a sofa looky-loo and, asking the questions, and they're doing their shopping online, and you can get really wrapped up into that for a very long time and not really have much success.
Yeah. So our friend Troy Shearer, the director of marketing in NIADA, chimed in. I purchased 3 vehicles online, never drove them until they were in my driveway. And Troy, what that tells me is you're a good credit consumer.
And
so I would just challenge
as someone that does their research, it's like, I know what I want, kind of thing.
But I would just say, from the standpoint of our buy here, pay here consumer, show me 5 consumers who could also say that. Show me 5 poor credit consumers who could also say what Troy just said. I don't think buy here, pay here consumers currently are buying that way very much now. So we've got some dealers out there doing it, and it might have some repeat customers.
I think part of that too, we were saying, how many of us would want to buy a car online? How many of us would, make a major purchase? It's not very, it's more common.
Yeah.
It's more common for people with better credit scores to do that.
It is
because they get to have more choice.
So and listen, again, we don't want to assume. We just know it is a changing environment. We do know that, and by the way, that whole thing you described about people, the looky-loos and the tire kickers wanting to shop from their sofa, that was true before COVID. That was already happening, and consumers were using Facebook and other methods to try to, learn what they could. And especially in buy here, pay here, they just want to know before they drive down, will I qualify? Right. Yeah. Will you be able to get me in a car if I come down today? That's what they're really trying to learn. And so I think what I hope to bring in the webinar is tips for how to answer those questions and help the customer understand why it's important for them to come on down, why it's in their best interest.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything for you. They don't know you. But if you can help them understand why it's in their best interest, then maybe you'll get more customers come on down. Maybe your closing percentage will go up as a result of getting them in the building. But if they don't, we're still going to meet them where they are. We're still going to be prepared to deliver them in their driveway if it's legal in our area and our process is set up in a way that we can do that and we are comfortable approving. Again, this is going to vary by business model. We all know dealers, business models in buy here, pay here run the spectrum. Like they run the gamut in terms of how dealers want to do business. That includes, and this is largely driven by their appetite for risk. So does a buy here, pay here dealer, some dealer who's new in Indiana, can they get comfortable with the idea of delivering? How much do they want to know about the customer? How much do they want the customer in the building so they can do an extensive, interview / application? It's up to the dealer, right? Every dealer's
Yeah.
going to do business. And so what we're simply saying is we understand the world is shifting. What this poll tells me is we're not there yet. People are doing it. There's some people doing it out there and having success.
Yeah.
Will a higher percentage of these folks be doing virtual or digital delivery in the driveway, 5 years from now? Probably. But today, the reality is 45 out of 46 said not one in 2022. So that just tells me we need to stay focused on how to help dealers convert more of those web leads to get them to the building. And so that's what we hope to do. And
Yeah. Well, and when you can get them to the building and it's like they're already in a buying, they are ready to do that because of how you've gotten them in the building, then you are in a better position if you chose to do more digital delivery.
Right.
If you've already built up that skill set to be able to do that,
right.
then you're in a much better position to be able to take it all the way to the finish line if that's where you actually want to go.
Yeah. And listen, there's nothing that you've heard me say that should suggest to you that I don't want us to be as efficient in our sales process as we possibly can. We all want to be efficient and do as much business as we possibly can. And that just means we want to be effective. It doesn't make sense to be efficient in our sales process, but then we don't close the deal. Oh, we're super efficient at getting people to an application. Okay, great. How can you spend that?
Yeah.
It's like we have to sell the car. We have to convert the lead. We have to win the customer. And so to me, that's best done in person. And we can be super efficient. In the meantime, we can be working on efficiencies and ways to make that other part of the process successful. And we understand there's low costs in those pieces, low work cost. We can manage more leads that way. We get it. We understand the math. It's just that until more than 45 out of 46 dealers are doing digital in the driveway, then we know the customer's ultimately got to come to the lot to take delivery.
Yeah. And one of the things that I can, as we've talked to a lot of dealers, that when one nugget, what's a nugget, is that when you're having an online conversation with someone, it is about getting them in the door. And one of the better ways of getting them in the door is to ask them and leave it with a question. So what time can we see you?
Sure.
If they're saying, hey, we hold that car? It's like, I can't, you need to come down,
Right.
because they're going fast. And you need to come down and take a look at the inventory that we've got. What time can we expect you? Would you be available we have an opening at, I can't, and it's about asking the question.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to ask you, well, can I come down? As readily as like, when can you come down? We'd love to see you. And that's like, when I talk, when we're doing coaching, it's like there's little hooks, and they don't have to be really super strong or like super deep, but just little hooks of like, when you get them to commit to this, or you get them to commit to that, or you get them to commit to this, that you're more likely to get them on the lot or close the deal, because they start to feel, it's in a psychology piece of, they start to feel like, oh, they're expecting me.
Right.
Oh, I said I would. Oh, and there's still going to be people that don't do that, but you can't get those hooks in without asking for them.
Yeah. And obviously we'll give lots of tips at the
Yeah.
webinar. We'll give lots of specific tips, and we'll bring our experts in there to add tips as well. But yeah, I think what you're hearing from me is, I think we want to meet customers where they are.
Yep.
We want to be able to serve both. And I'm just saying, let's serve both. Let's whatever the customer wants to do, let's make sure we're available to meet them and increase our chances
Absolutely.
of closing. And so that's really what we're suggesting here. And I think, hopefully the dealers, people chime in, and let's add some tips and things that are working, and let's try the best we can to get folks in the building, because we know that's where the cars are.
Yeah, absolutely. So save the date, December 29th.
Right.
We're going to be doing a webinar. We're going to have a panel of experts and dealers, and we're going to really unpack this question about some of the strategies and that are best practices in the industry,
Yeah.
and that have worked really well for other people for getting people in the door
Yeah.
or at the lot.
We can wrap up there. I would just tell our
Yeah.
listeners to, be aware that Michelle and I are going to start introducing soon some information about consumer education. We're going to start to move toward the side where we start to introduce some education and a podcast for consumers. So
we're
that'll be fun.
building. We're going to start the foundational pieces to continue to grow. What our master vision, our
Mhm.
master plan is, and so we're really looking forward to that. And that was actually one of the things we talked about yesterday and did
Mhm.
some planning on. So we'll have more to talk about on that on Wednesday.
White Hat Wednesday.
And White Hat Wednesday. And so until we see you on White Hat Wednesday, save the date, December 29th. It'll be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and it will be a webinar. We're going to have limited seats so that there can be some participation from dealers, and we're really looking forward to doing that. That will
Yep.
be awful lot of fun. So
Have a great Monday.
Yeah.
See you on Wednesday morning.
all right, guys, have a great day and go out and sell a new car.
There you go.